Today I'm joined by Lidia Ranieri, my great colleague here at ECI. Lidia has got a fabulous background. I'm always proud to introduce you. Lydia trained as a lawyer initially, found her way into investment banking, in fact became a managing director of a global investment bank, moved into corporate advisory, so really sort of knowledge-based work, if you will. You and I met training in psychology at the University of Sydney, and I know that your other real passion is around astrology, which I've always found really curious, and I know we've spoken about it before, and maybe we should talk about that at some stage as well. It's just a fascinating story. Today we're going to talk about an idea that emerged about 20 years ago. It was through a seminal paper that was distributed through Harvard Business Review, as I recall at the time. It was called The Making of a Corporate Athlete. And it was written by two psychologists, American psychologists, Jim Lohr and Tony Schwartz. Yeah. And it kind of sent reverberations around office environments, organizations, And the essence of the article, of course, was that they had researched what really distinguished and what were the patterns of very high-performing athletes across individual and team pursuits, and what are their patterns, and they identified these 4 patterns, and then they applied that into the corporate setting, and they found that the same darn patterns reoccurred or could reoccur that helped to make people better at their jobs, healthier and happier. And it was kind of like, hang on a minute, this is like a magic elixir. Yeah. Well, what do I have to drink?
Give me some of that.
Give me some of that. But it's really quite incredible. And so, and it has so much application in work environments that we coach and work in today with busy executives. So let's quickly talk about the gist of the model and then how people might apply it.
Yeah.
Okay? So Lyd, let's start down. So it's drawn as a hierarchy on purpose, as far as I think. Is that the way you think of it? It's a hierarchy on purpose. The base of the hierarchy is the physical self. So what do we really, tell us what goes through your mind as you think about that.
Yeah, so I guess the premise is, and what I love about the model is that it's a holistic approach to how do we, answering the question, how do we sustain high performance? And so we start with the physical level, okay? And the idea is, what can we do from a simple rituals that will support and strengthen our physical being? And so this is all about, am I eating the right foods? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I exercising enough? The idea here isn't advocating, go on a diet or do this thing. It's answering the question, of the 4 layers, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. Where, as I go through each of these layers, do I feel I've got an inherent weakness, or should I be attending to supporting or strengthening myself? Yeah. And you mentioned the corporate athlete thing, and I love this reframing for execs. It's a great reframe. Isn't it? It's brilliant. Perfect. And every time I raise it with an exec, I see them sit there and go, at first they're sort of silent, and you can see it passing through going, yeah, right. I am under pressure. I have to perform. It's high stakes. It's unrelenting. Yes, I have to turn up, and the adrenaline's coursing. Yeah. And so, when execs can see themselves through that lens as being a corporate athlete, then they can start to think, okay, right. Who's responsible for taking care of my physical well-being?
And if I was a professional athlete on a basketball team or a soccer team, I would approach my craft, my trade, completely differently. Yeah, and my mental approach to it would be completely different.
100%. Yeah. I would think about, what am I putting into my body? Is this going to help me for the game on the weekend? Or, is this going to give me the extra energy I need to perform in this moment? And so it's the same with, enough caffeine, too much caffeine. It's all those questions we need to scrutinize. What is it that I'm doing to my physical well-being and what could I improve?
Yeah.
And so the beauty of the ideal performance state model, as it's called, is that one, there's the interrogation, and then there's the, okay, now let's introduce some rituals. And the
rituals, we should be clear, are essentially like habits, right?
Yeah.
That's really what they're talking about. I know they talk about it.
Yeah, they call them rituals, but they're just easy habits that you can integrate into your day.
Yes.
Do I get up half an hour earlier and go for a walk before I turn up to work? Do I, go for a workout? And the other thing that they advocate for at the physical level is they do say that regular weight-bearing exercise is very important, and we know this through various scientific, fields now. And the premise is, if you take that component of time, the 30 minutes of exercise, away from your work, it will repay you in many dividends over of energy that you can return to sustain.
Yeah. I think too, we should, some people may listen to this and think, like, it's just not practical, I can't get up, or a gym, or whatever. But there are some really simple hacks as well that can and do make a significant difference, right? So, like, breathing is one. Like, we're really poor breathers, but to just basically sit back, put the backside in the chair and close your, and breathe in for big 4 inhalations, hold for 4, and exhale for 4. Just simple breathing exercises. Take like a minute and reduce your blood pressure like by 80 or 20 beats, and it costs you nothing. It takes no time.
Takes no time.
Making different sorts of choices. Am I reaching for caffeination, or am I reaching for water? I mean, not to be a wowzer about it, but it's just being mindful of what are the choices that am I reaching for sugar, or is it, almonds, something that's got a little slower burn. So I think there are some really simple things that we can all do that help with the physical self.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so that's the base. So we've got to make sure the physical's right. I think that people intuitively would understand that when we're not feeling well, it's hard to perform well. Okay, so then we go up, and now we're into that next one, which is around the emotional component of. So what do we mean by that?
So, so this is about, again, think about it from a support and resilience and strengthening. So what can I do to generate more resiliency in my emotional well-being, right? So this is a well-being model. So breathing comes back into breathing, operates at almost, all three of the first 3 layers, because let's say I'm experiencing a moment of intensity at work and I feel overcome by my emotions. We know that when that happens, your prefrontal cortex has suddenly gone offline. You cannot get logical and clear thinking when you're overcome by emotions. So, what's one of the easy hacks? What's one of the easy habits? When I notice myself in that state, I need to actually pause. I need to take some deep breaths, because that will get my parasympathetic nervous system, back into a regulated state, so I can, start to think clearly again. The other thing about the emotional layer is, okay, what about when I'm just overworked? And what about when I'm facing deadline after deadline and there's a mountain of work in front of me and I just need to get it done? What's happening? I'm not seeing friends. I'm not seeing the kids if I have children. I'm not spending time with my partner. I become quite isolated, and it's just a world of work.
So relationships are like a superpower to help build that emotional regularity.
Yeah. And again, the advice here at this layer is take the time to go back into those really important relationships. Organize something, even if it's a drink or a chat or a coffee with a colleague. Have that human connection. And that will feed you, obviously with somebody that you value, that's important to you, where you feel that bond and connection. Call a parent if you're close to a parent, a sister, a brother, whatever it is, but have that moment of connection. And when you've taken that time away from your work, you can then return to it. And that's the idea behind the model, that we take the step back. We use the recovery time, again, through that corporate athlete lens. Athletes have downtime. They aren't on the field all the time.
And they prioritize recovery.
Right.
I think that's such a good word. Some people think, I need more time. How am I going to fit this into my already packed schedule? I know a very senior partner of a law firm, and what she does is every night when she's driving from the city back to her home, it's about 20 minutes away or so, she chooses to call a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And that's her opportunity to just check in. It just makes her feel good.
Yeah.
To
be in
it
relationship.
took no more time. She just chose to use the time differently.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go up a level. So there's some this emotional regularity is really, I think, and I always simplistically think about this as the difference between, say, Ash Barty and a Nick Kyrgios.
Yeah.
I think tennis followers would know exactly what we mean. So then the next layer is this mental, this ability to sort of deeply concentrate and focus, not be distracted. Right. Okay. So let's unpack that a little bit more. What goes through your mind as you think about that?
So this is the layer where the world of work today really, kind of finds us in its snare. Our minds are full. Very, very full, very taxed. And the idea at this layer is the recovery looks like mindlessness, empty mind. And so the question is, how do you get an empty mind when you're on the loop, right? And so here's a simple one. Obviously meditation, going for a walk in nature. If you're into swimming,
Going for a walk in nature and deeply
being
appreciating the nature, yeah.
Right,
Okay.
and so this is the point with mindlessness. No matter whether you're in nature or sitting at your desk and you haven't left your office, the key here is presence. The minute you are present, even if you're sitting at your desk, if I think you take 5 minutes, you set your timer on your phone and you go, for 5 minutes, I'm going to be present. My fingers are on the keyboard. I'm, grabbing my coffee. I can feel my body sitting in the chair. I can feel my feet touching the floor. If you're taking your shoes off, I can feel my feet on the carpet. It's the presence. And the minute you become present, the mind stops the loop. You can't have the loop while you're present. And so that's the hack, really. It can be in many different guises, forms, places, some far more enjoyable than doing the presence exercise in your office, being in nature, as you say, but that's what we need. We need mindlessness to recover at this level.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work, and as coaches, we spend a lot of time helping clients to, practice that ability to focus and not be swept away and be distracted, taken off course by these things that are just sort of coming at us and sort of find ourselves in reaction mode.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing is, if we go back to our athlete example, the best athletes, tennis is such a great game for this, Novak. What are they? They are so present in their game. They're not distracted by the crowd, the noise, the last point, the next point. Yeah. They're in this moment. Yes. And that's what enables high performance.
And I think that's one of the great things that Ash Barty was open about, was that she learned how to do that, to not spend energy in areas that were wasted. Yeah. Okay, great. So then the tip of the model, Lauren Schwartz described it as spirituality. And I think 20 years ago that was probably the word. Today I think we would talk about more in terms of purpose. Yeah, okay. So I know, you have a video that we've talked about around purpose, and people can check that out on our website. But essentially, let's give people the sort of 30 seconds. What do we mean? Like, where does that fit in this?
Yeah. I do like this model because it incorporates purpose, because in the world of psychology, sometimes, we don't go there. But what does it mean? It's what are the things that you can do that feed you? Because we know that when you're engaged in something that feels purposeful, it is going to generate a high amount of motivation, energy, drive, sense of meaning, and all of these things are restorative. And so, the benefit of carving out some time for this is that it can, kind of enable you to engage in what you're doing with renewed vigor. It can help you make sense of your work, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. You can start to return to those things with, just a little bit more oomph in your step. But, what is it? Well, as per our discussion on purpose, it can be many different things for people, but it's got to connect to your values. Yeah. Sometimes people will do a exercise in volunteering, right? And that can just be my contribution this month, this year, whatever. And that can feed them, take them away from their daily professional lives, help them engage in something else. But, what we're getting to here is this idea of transcending yourself. If you can transcend your stress, your problems, the difficulties and challenges of work, and do something that's deeply meaningful and that takes you away from yourself, puts your experience into a bigger context, then what we know is that actually restores and revives you to go back and do whatever it is that you need to get done.
So there's the link back into how it helps and is integrated into this model. Okay, lovely. So Lydia, imagine I'm a busy executive, I'm under pressure, I've got lots of things to do and on my mind, et cetera, et cetera. What do you want me to take away from this conversation?
Well, I think the first thing is ask yourself, which of the 4 layers, the physical, the emotional, the mental, or the spiritual / purpose-based, do I feel I've neglected and could do with a refocusing? And so that's just the start. Clearly we need to be operating across all 4 levels, but I always say just start with one of them. And in that, what's something simple that we can reintroduce that could become a habit that could support you? And then once you've got that base working for you, then let's look at the next level. And so it really is, it's as simple as that. It's answering the question, okay, if I'm feeling tired, if I'm feeling a bit burnt out, they're the signals that you need some recovery. Yeah. And what calls to you as the place in which you need to recover.
And I think your advice around and not feeling I have to do 5 things or too much too soon, that it's potentially just introducing a very small number of perhaps new habits that, as you say, will support. Yeah. So brilliant. I think it was a seminal article in its day, and I think it could not be any more timely than if it was written yesterday. Yeah. I think it was just it's one of those pieces that, like things that seminal articles that come along that just really reframe. And I think Lauren Schwartz did exactly that, and it's so relevant in the work that we do and in the people that we work with. Thank you for unpacking that. There's so much to it, okay, and what we can talk about in a short video, but gosh, there's a lot to it. If people want to know more or to contact you, they can go to eci.net.au and really dive into it. But what a great conversation today. So thank you, Lydia.
Thanks, Chris.
Great.